Welcome, welcome, Mary Trump.
Molly Jong-Fast.
What? What? We're, so,
Exactly.
Lindsey Graham has this, it doesn't lie in state, but it's a very grand funeral. It is the last of the three amigos, right?
Mm.
So we saw Lieberman. First we saw McCain, then Lieberman, and now Graham, the last of the three amigos. You can argue about his legacy, and we will ad nauseum, but it was a very grand send off, not lying in state, but very grand. And Donald Trump spoke at it.
Is that a question?
Discuss.
Yes. Well, as is often the case, Donald carried himself with exactly the kind of comportment you would expect a sitting president at the funeral of somebody who was allegedly a close friend,
Yeah.
because Lindsey Graham apparently really wanted to pass the same act. So
That is, yeah, perhaps the darkest moment is, so again, what is interesting about Lindsey Graham is that he asked the question, like, is it more worth it to stay in the room to try to influence Trump, right? By playing golf with him and trying to get in there and advocate for national security and also war, because he did love war. And again, Donald Trump thought he was a warmonger too. And that was the way that generation thought about national security. We can say that. I'm not sure I think it was wrong, but it's how they thought about it. To stay in the tent, is it worth it to have that power, or is it better to leave the tent and to try to gum up the works?
Well, I think the staying at the tent in service to trying to moderate Donald's impulses or pass better legislation or whatever. First of all, I think that ship has sailed. We know that is not something that is possible. And secondly, in what way did Lindsey Graham do that? Maybe he was able to chip away around the edges with Ukraine. But I think what Lindsey Graham showed us, he's actually the sort of platonic ideal of somebody in the Republican Party who is so craven and weak and needy that they are willing to sell their souls and completely undo their legacy simply to have proximity to power.
Yeah.
So I don't see what difference Lindsey Graham made, if he even intended to. This is somebody, as far as I'm concerned, has completely destroyed whatever claim he had to being a decent human being. He served as a jag. Well, guess what? That doesn't get you very far if, as a senator, you do untold damage to the American people and to our national security, in large part by helping elevate people like Donald Trump.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because at the end of this whole, golfing with Trump in order to try to secretly. So again, the question is either he's trying to just still matter, right? Because, there's an argument of whether or not you matter if you leave the tent, right? Like Liz Cheney is no longer crafting policy. So the idea is you stay in the tent to matter, or you leave the tent to influence policy. Either way, Donald Trump, after Lindsey Graham dies, says his legacy is the SAVE Act.
Which hasn't passed in the Senate and won't pass in the Senate.
Which is very clearly not his legacy, too.
Not his legacy. What his legacy is, again, perhaps a conversation for another time. It's not a good one. Right. That's for sure.
Right.
He proved himself to be a very self-interested, selfish, destructive human. And I think the other thing we should be reminded of is just how transactional every single relationship Donald has is. Lindsey Graham sold whatever was left of his soul in service to being one of Donald's sycophanteous sycophants, right? He actually recently almost went so far as to say Donald was God. But if not God, then just this close to being as important as God. I mean, that is how depraved Lindsey Graham was.
Right.
And in return, like literally the only thing Donald had to say about him was, yeah, he really wanted the SAVE Act passed. And oh, by the way, at his funeral, no, these written remarks are not true. Not everybody loved Lindsey Graham. In fact, a lot of people couldn't stand the little creep,
Yeah.
So it just shows you that it doesn't matter how desperately you want Donald to like you. It doesn't matter the degree to which you debase yourself.
Right.
It's all about what use you are to him. And he's dead now, so he's of no use to Donald at all.
So there was this weird thing. First, I want to ask you. Well, first, I want to ask you, did he used to be able to not say the quiet part out loud?
Yeah, I think that Donald did have the ability to read the room better. He was good at pushing the envelope in ways that and then recalibrate in real time. The most obvious example of this I can think of is that he was at a rally shortly after the COVID vaccine came out, and he was speaking positively about the vaccine, and he got booed. And we never heard him say that again. Yep. And now we're seeing that he does not have the ability to do that. What that means is he's losing impulse control. And that's a part of his overall cognitive decline, I think.
Yeah, I was struck by that too. And I was actually thinking about the White House Correspondents' Dinner last week, the part 2 of the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which we can have a conversation about why that was not a good idea. But one of the things that he did when he was up there was he really bombed.
Yeah.
And he didn't recalibrate. He just criticized the speech and kept going. Yep. And people were pretty shocked.
Yeah, I'm not sure why anybody's shocked anymore. But yeah, I mean, listen, when you've got this very old man who's clearly not doing well in every category of being human, psychologically, emotionally, cognitively, physically, we shouldn't be shocked when he stands up in front of a room full of people to whom he is deeply hostile, and many of whom he's endangered with his rhetoric, to read a speech he's never read before and had absolutely no hand in writing, and have him go off script, indulge his grievances, and not be able to process the fact that it's not working anymore. It just isn't working anymore. And he told the same joke, which, by the way, was deeply unfunny, 3 times. And it was as if he thought just because he's him, it would land eventually, because he's so great and funny and everybody adores him. And obviously that wasn't what happened. And I think the only person not aware of it is him.
Yeah. The joke you're talking about, the 3-time joke, is this joke where he says he's going to be president in 2028, right?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was because I don't think that's a joke. I think that's what the bunker is all about. A senator told him, great guy, told him that his wife said, when you get home, I want you to come upstairs and make love to me. God, those words coming out of Donald's mouth. And the senator said, I can't do both of those things at the same time.
Yes, right.
I don't know if that's funny.
I don't think it's funny, but it is right. That is the joke. And what I think is interesting, it does seem like he has an inability to gauge. So I wonder, when he knocked on Lindsey Graham's coffin, what do you think that was?
Let's see. I'm sure the white evangelicals will say that it has some deep spiritual meaning.
Right.
Just as it has a deep spiritual meaning when he tried and failed to pop a Tic Tac into his mouth, or that he couldn't remember the words to the Lord's Prayer.
Yes.
I've been an atheist since I was 16. I still remember the Lord's Prayer. No, I think, again, take your pick. He's superstitious. He was knocking on wood to make sure that Graham is actually dead. He was just trying to check out the authenticity of the coffin.
Right.
I don't know. It's weird. It's deeply, deeply weird behavior. And the fact that none of this, I mean, okay, in the grand scheme of things, is it the most important thing going on? No,
No,
but
certainly
altogether,
not.
it paints a picture.
Right.
It paints a picture of his weirdness, his inappropriateness, the fact that it's all just a total sham. And I saw somebody say recently or on Twitter say, nobody gives a shit about the reflecting pool. It's in this grand scheme of things. It's not even the list of top 100 terrible things Donald has done. It's like, well, guess what, though? It's not just about his incompetence and his corruption and giving a no bid contract. Like, people are getting arrested. American citizens are getting arrested for that kind of thing. I don't think that is the kind of thing we can turn a blind eye to.
Yeah.
Even as, in fact, to say that it's not even on the list of 100 of the worst things he does, that matters too, you know?
Well, I seem to remember an entire news cycle dominated by Joe Biden getting up too early after a deadline White House interview and walking out of the studio and people being like, Joe Biden got up too early and walked out of the studio. And it was like, obviously, and like these are similar situations of weird things that people do. Should it dominate the news cycle? It probably should, because this guy has the nuclear codes.
Well, what's even worse is when it's something that's not weird. It's latched onto to create a fake controversy. Obama wore a tan suit to the Oval Office. What a
Yeah.
desecration. Hillary Clinton with the flu fainted after appearing at a September 11th
Right.
memorial because it was really hot and she was sick. Oh my God, she's dying. I mean,
Right.
it's so to have those things get relentless attention and to have Donald's repeated, not just like weirdnesses, but clear signs of cognitive decline, etc. The guy can't stay awake in public. He fell asleep at Lindsey Graham's funeral.
Right.
Why? Because nobody was talking about him. They were
Yeah.
talking about Lindsey Graham. How weird. How
Very
rude of
boring
them.
for him.
Yes,
Yeah.
so boring.
But he also looks terrible. And the hands,
Yeah,
the photos of the hands, I don't know what they're doing to his hands, but it's,
yeah. The cankles.
yeah, the cankles and the bruises on his hands and the sweatiness and the way it looks like. So I wonder, though, we're cruising into we're less than 100 days from the midterms. There
Wow.
clearly is this anxiety. Like, what's so interesting to me about this moment is you have Donald Trump in this kind of spiral. He is not doing anything to make his polling better. He's not, he can't get out of the Iran thing is intractable. So every talk, every time he gets going, it's basically trying to make it harder to vote, the SAVE Act.
Yeah, because I think even he is aware that the only way Republicans win in the midterms is to cheat and make it harder and harder for as many people as possible, including Republicans, by the way.
Right.
Because the SAVE Act affects married women more who've changed their names more than any other group, I believe. I think it's also an admission that he cannot change the way he behaves.
Right.
Because, as you said, everything he's doing is detrimental to his party's chances in the midterms. And he desperately needs the Republicans to win, because if they don't, at least I hope this will be the case, the Democrats are going to make his life hell.
Yeah. Going to be a lot of hearings and a lot of testimony and and it'll be interesting to see, what happens there, because the thing that I'm struck by is like all of the sort of high stakes stuff that I thought would bring him down, the indictments, the criminal stuff, even like he had to pay Eugene $5 million. Now he's trying to throw out the bigger payment towards her for her. But it's very possible the Supreme Court won't sort that out and he'll have to pay her some amount of that. So, he has all this money that he's had to pay off to her and all of these sort of things that you would think would be the things that bring him down. But it strikes me that the thing that's really hurt him, at least in the most recently, has been just gas prices.
Yeah. Welcome to America. Yeah, you would think that if he were introduced this way every single time, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump, adjudicated rapist,
Right.
convicted felon on 34 counts of fraud, maybe it would sink in, but it's as if that stuff never happened. The fact that ICE, a fascist government agency, is murdering people in American streets, apparently that's not a big deal either. What happened with the USAID? Millions of deaths, that unnecessary preventable deaths that Donald's caused. Nope. Eggs are expensive. Gas prices are expensive. Well, that matters. And I think that's a sad commentary on how self-interested the American people are, how difficult it is for them to see outside of their own situations. But, part of that could possibly be because most Americans have to work too much just to stay afloat. And Donald's making it harder. And it's one thing to gaslight somebody about something about which they don't have any information. I'd say that probably 90% of people who support him don't know about E. Jean Carroll because they're not talking about it on Fox or Newsmax. On the other hand, it's very difficult to tell people not to believe their own lying eyes, because if there's one thing Americans know very well, it's when their paychecks aren't going as far and how much it costs to fill up your tank of gas, So it's not working. And I think Molly, I think it's really interesting. Like, in general, one of the things we're seeing is that Donald is losing control of the narrative. And I don't know that that's anything that's happened to him before. That might be unique in his experience.
Yeah, what's interesting about that, and I think that's right, is that there's a feeling that all of this that Trump has really not been able to hold on to the narrative or even people's attention. Remember how he dominated everyone's attention for a decade?
Sadly, yes. And
maybe more.
Being from New York, he did that in the 80s and 90s.
And being his niece, he probably did that a lot longer.
Well, yes. I mean, he dominated every family conversation, which was really fun, I have to say. So now, again, because he's in the Oval Office and because he still has a lot of power and he's being so destructive, the attention he's getting, it's not that it's negative. He doesn't mind negative attention. That was one of my grandfather's mantras. There's no such thing as bad publicity. But this is publicity that's focused on his incompetence and his decrepitude. Right. And that's different. That is kind of attention that makes him desperate to change the subject. The problem for him is the ways in which he's trying to change the subject are making everything worse for him. To get our attention away from Epstein, he started an unconstitutional war of choice that's been disastrous, and he actually lost it on day one. And here we are 6 months later. So that's just the kind of thing that is happening continually now, and he cannot stop. He can't get out of that loop because he's the one creating this vicious cycle.
Mary Trump, thank you.
Thanks, Molly. This was great. It's really good to see you.